I can't stand it. I don't like it at all. In the past I've gotten very, I've made 2 films before People, Places, Things, and both times I got so wedded to that music that was just off of my computer.
That music you couldn't afford.
Yeah, music that was never going to work, and and then I don't like it. So I wanted to try and do something differently this time, and I tried. Colleen and I, Colleen Sharp, who edited the film, we tried to be very spare and selective, and we used a lot of Mark's music because I said I didn't want to give a composer something that was like, here's John Bryan,
right?
Could you do that? Or someone else's music. So picking Mark and having him come onto the project, and then pulling from his library of music that changed the experience for me.
Did you use a lot of his record tracks or his soundtrack tracks?
Soundtrack.
Okay.
I find it, I have had different relationships with temp music over the years, but now I find it really exciting especially if the temp is totally something that I'm not capable of doing. If it really is something that's going to push me and challenge me and terrify me, which is definitely the case with this, because it was dealing with instruments that I don't play in a very, very fast turnaround. And there's nothing I want to do more than surprise myself and scare myself. And the hardest thing that I ever have to deal with is when movies are temped with my music. It's really hard to get inspired. It always works, but it doesn't scare me. It's like, oh shit, they expect something that worked like it worked in that movie, and it feels a little bit more. I feel more cornered by it.
Yeah, I agree. You end up just repeating yourself, which I hate doing, because it's hard. If you're not being pushed into a different direction, it's hard to imagine a different thing.
There's also, can I chime in right there? There are these 2 things that happen. So one is, and I think we all would agree, the first time you put music to picture, this incredible thing happens. It's magic. It's crazy. Doesn't matter if the music's totally wrong or totally right or insane and something you never thought of. The first second that you see picture with music, there's something that you can't even describe that happens. And I think that even though temp can be lovely and temp can be inspiring, there is this weird, strange blank slate when you get the opportunity to write without temp, that can be very empowering and very wonderful. And the other thing I've been thinking a lot about is I'm so excited, and especially at Sundance, seeing films with unique scores. I really hate seeing films, especially directorial debuts, and things like that, where the music is clearly from another film or a copy of another film. I so encourage all directors to work with their composers to find a unique sound, and be inspired by temp, but also be open to finding a totally unique sound, because every great film that we all love has a great score that goes along with it.
For me, Prashant, actually, I thought he used it in a really good way. I'm pretty against it, and I advised against it, but I think editors really have a hard time not doing it. So his editor had put it in, but it was perfect, because I think temp music should be music you don't want, you're not attached to, and he was always like, I don't want this, I don't like this, but we just need to see a little bit of music in there to feel the depth of the picture. So it was great. He was never attached to it, and I felt like we could still create a voice.
There's something pretty cool, though, with putting a temp in there where you can just, using it as a tool for experimentation. Something that you wouldn't necessarily, you can just see what happens if you pull something like, say you tried it this one way, you want to just slam something to picture that maybe wasn't your traditional, conventional thought. And it's a great way just to sort of see what could happen if you need to reinvent something. If it's really used as an experimental tool, there's something kind of magical about that too.
And, I would say that I just find that when we have these really fast turnarounds, when you have 3 weeks to do a score, and you're working with a director who maybe doesn't know necessarily how to talk about music, it's great to have a commonality there. It's great to have temp as a tool to say what do you and don't you like about, and be able to draw out a director specific musical elements that otherwise you'd be talking about in the abstract if it was just dry. So